we were traveling in Australia, like early 2000s. I got working in a cafe, cooking, and kind of quickly realized that, you know, there was the coffee machine was like the holy grail in these establishments. And this was like early days, third wave coffee movement, you know. And I was kind of intrigued by the idea of the fact that I wasn't allowed to go near the coffee machine, and the people that were coming in had really high standards of the coffee that was being made for them. So I got drawn to that whole idea, and you know, quickly kind of pushed my way onto it and started making coffees barista style or whatever. But realised then that there was a whole new movement of kind of artisan roasteries popping up in Sydney at that time. I think it was 2000, 2001 we were there. I didn't get back here, set up Ariosa till 2003. So there was, you know, great coffee roasteries, which turned out to be really big now, but like Toby's Estate, which is really, really well known in Australia. They've cafes in New York and, you know, Singapore now, but they were just setting up around the corner from where our cafe was. And they had a roaster in the cafe. They were doing that kind of roast and shop thing, and they had like hip baristas and cool music, and it was like, for me, that was it. It was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. Obviously Bewley's was here, and Java Republic had just set up in kind of late 90s, so they were only open 2-3 years. My intention, I suppose, may have been initially to kind of get into the roasting, but do that kind of cafe shop roaster thing in Dublin. And it just didn't turn out that way. I got an opportunity to set up my parents' garage in Ashburn, you know, and we got a roaster. We went to Italy to a trade show, bought an oven, met a green bean broker there, and brought the oven back and set it up there. So I started out that way, and then tried to get into, and that's where I got into the markets from there, you know, and kind of started to build it there. Well, in some cases, so I suppose we buy from 4 or 5 different companies. A couple of them will be based in London and are considered brokers, but would have commercial portfolios and specialty portfolios, you know. So we'd be able to pick off kind of, if you wanted smaller amounts of coffees from Africa or Indonesia, you know, you weren't buying large supplies. You can get 4 or 5 bags of this, 6, 7 bags of that, you know, mix them all together and then palletized and sent over. I grew up in my dad's business. He was in the meat business in Dublin for his whole working career. So he used to drag me in there, and I kind of learned a bit about wholesaling from him, you know. So it was kind of, I kind of had the idea of how I was going to do this, but it was like getting into the account and then kind of getting the guys up to a standard where the coffee is made to a particular way was the most difficult part. And trying to convince people it's not, okay, yeah, it's great beans, but doesn't mean you're going to make great coffee at the end of the day with it, you know. So it was about then machinery and grinders and you know, making sure everything was clean and making sure staff were trained and not like just letting everybody make the coffee. Trying to convince people that like you needed to ideally hire baristas, but there wasn't even too many of them around. Well, so we opened a cafe in Drogheda 6 years ago now, and before it was Ariosa, it was a customer of mine. So I used to deliver there, and I always liked the location. So when that customer told me that they were finishing up, we went after it straight away, and we opened up a cafe there, and it's become a total institution in Drogheda now. Like, you know, we were the first to kind of bring specialty coffee into that part. 6 years on, it's a cracking little business. It's small, it's only a small space, but it's a really good business. And then we opened Laytown nearly 2 years ago. And that's just across from the beach. And it's called Ariosa by the Sea. What we learned quick enough is like that, you know, there's specific tastes in everywhere you go, and something that might work in Italy is not going to necessarily work here in Ireland, you know. So we kind of developed a roast profile that was, real medium style. The beans weren't oily. We weren't going beyond a certain point with the beans. So it was really important to get that coffee roasted medium style, and where it was very smooth and kind of clean. I would always say, once you get this coffee consistent and make a good cup of coffee, people will come back. I guarantee they'll come back. But what, you know, drives people mad and still does is inconsistency in coffee. You know, if it's like burnt or over extracted, or it's made by one person one day and they're like, oh, I don't like that person making it, I want this person making it, you know. So that was a challenge to definitely get the coffee made right.